Amen. Anybody do their homework this last week? Oh, busted. Who actually went home and looked at their finances this week? Anybody? Yeah. Nice. Encouraging. Honestly, I didn't expect many people to, because it's not very fun to get a slap in the face, is it? It's not. You have to step into that, and it's literally a bam, Chris, you're spending money on this? Really? Those of you that did, I got the privilege of sitting down with somebody this week that did go through their budget, and her quote was this: "We have a lot of holes in our bucket." Ouch, right? And it's true. We do. We can all start spending and saving in a lot of different ways, a lot of different places, and just be more responsible managing and our finances and what we're doing. But it takes courage even to step out and look at that. It takes courage. Like last week, we looked at the difference between expecting our paycheck to come through, pay for everything, and go out and leave some left over. But it takes more courage to actually have that paycheck come in, inspect where every dollar is going, so that we know how much is going out, where it's going, and how much we're going to have left over. There's a difference between expecting and inspecting. So that's what we looked at that last week for those of you that were not able to make it. And this week is part 2 of our series, and it's just a little mini-series. And for those of you that are new, we don't push finances here. We believe 1,000% in tithing and this discipline of giving. And we believe that it's part of our spiritual maturity. And as we grow, it becomes a desire in our heart to give. But we don't push that. We will give 2 or 3 talks per year on finances. And when we do, it's always to equip you with something. Like last week, we wanted you to go away and inspect your money. What are you doing? And this week, we're going to equip you with something else to do. But it's always with the intent that you go out and make your family stronger. If finances are the number one cause of divorce, make your marriages stronger. If it's the number one cause or one of the leading causes of suicidal tendencies, we want to equip you to avoid those things. And so today we're going through the same thing. And this morning, I'm looking at what I call the big ask. The big ask. Last week we looked at breaking every chain. Now we're going to ask some questions that people want to ask but don't. We could call them myths about finance. We can call them whatever. I just want to call them questions. Why not ask the tough questions? And the first question I have for us this morning is, whose is it? Whose money is it? Because we've all heard the talk that, money is God's. You shouldn't worry about it. Everything is God's anyway. Your money is God's. You don't need to worry about it in the future. But it feels like I'm the one out there earning it. I'm the one out there taking time away from my kids and my wife to earn it. I'm the one that has to worry about saving it. I'm the one that has to be anxious if I'm going to have enough at the end of the day to pay the bills. I'm the one that is bearing this burden of my finances. So whose is it really? Is it God's or is it really mine? Because seems like I'm the one working here. You ever had that thought? I know I have. And to get our answer, we go into Romans chapter 11, verse 36. Because if we compare anything other than this book, we're living by the world's standards. And we as Christians have to think about money differently than the world tells us to. And so Romans chapter 11 says this: "For everything comes from him and exists by his power and is intended for his glory." Pretty straightforward, I'd say. Every, one word, thing, one word, everything is his. Everything is his and given by his power. When we want to teach you in this church, we want to give you the what. The what is everything is his, but why? We need to understand the why behind that. And the why is simple. It's intended for his glory. How are we doing with that part when it comes to our finances? We have this check coming in, we've inspected it now, and we know where every dollar is going. Are we using it for His glory or our own? Because if I'm honest about myself, I'm not sure Chris drinking a $5 Starbucks coffee is bringing God glory. Sure is good, though. Right? I'm not sure that being lazy and leaving church late and saying, we're not going to cook today, let's just grab something on the way home. Am I using my funds for His glory or my own? Well, Chris, I worked really hard for my education. I worked really hard to develop my skills to get to this level where I can earn this money. So this is mine. I've worked hard for this. Really. Because if we go to Deuteronomy chapter 8, it says this. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. How many of you look at your skills and your talents and say, you know what? It's a pretty cool gift. It's a pretty cool gift when you think about it. I'm not up here because of my own talents. I'm up here because God intends something to be spoken today for His glory, not mine. You're not in your job because of your talents and your hard work. God placed you there to speak into somebody's life. God placed you in there to be a friend to somebody that's in need, to be a helper, to be an encouragement for somebody. Our abilities come from Him. So whose is it? It's not mine. But when we make it our own, like Ann said, we grab that chain and we stick it around our leg and we say, I prefer this. I prefer to be stuck to this chain, dragging it around. I want to be stuck to that. When we say it's our own, but you know what? When God says, no, you're not to be a slave to the lender. In fact, my people are supposed to be the ones lending the money. Did you know that's in here? You will borrow from none, but lend to many? That's what we're supposed to be doing. But we have embraced the world's point of view on money. We have embraced not God's point of view because it's not ours. It's not ours. When we let it flow through us and we stop choking that flow of blessing that comes through our life, then God can do His work through us. Second question. This is a good one. Do I have to give or tithe to the church? Or can I give money to other missions and ministries? This is my parents. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and my parents would always say, you know what, all the church wants is our money, and they never gave, and because they don't know where it's going, and they don't know what it's being used for. And so why should we give to the church? We can give to these other places, give to these other missions and ministries. Is that okay? Biblically speaking, is that okay? Last week we looked at Malachi. And Malachi 3:10, and it says this. Kathy's right on. It says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse that there may be food in my house. My house. To understand that, we have to go back. The storehouse in that time, the economy of that time, the source of funds, the financial structure of that time was agricultural and livestock. They would bring their stores of food into this storehouse, and they would store them there, and the storehouse is in the temple. The storehouse is in this place of worship, what we would call the church. And so God is saying, okay, bring this whole tithe into this place, into this church place, into this place of worship. And He says, last week we looked at it, He gives us a challenge. If you do this, test me in this, and see if I won't throw open the floodgates of heaven with so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it. Test Him in this. That's the challenge if we bring it here. But you know what? The truth is, I wouldn't give my money to the church if I didn't, one, believe in their mission or vision, or two, know where the money is going, have some sort of idea where the money is going. You want to know what our model is here? Because your money comes in here, how does it get handled? We strive to live by the 10, 20, 30, 40% model, meaning that every dollar that comes in here, 10% goes out because we want to be a blessing into this city. We bless missionaries overseas. We bless schools around this place. We sponsor Christmas boxes and help the poor and the needy and help people with medical appointments, and 10% of our money goes out as well. That's what we want because it's biblical. 20% of our money our income at this church, we want to go toward ministries, children's ministries. We want the children's ministries to have amazing curriculums, amazing fun learning experience and environments. We want the women's ministry to be able to put on events that not only support the women here, but around this city. We want to have the men's ministry reaching into those heads of household and encouraging them to take their stand as leaders in their household to show their kids what we're doing here, to show them what God is and who He is and what He's actually doing. We want the worship ministry to be amazing. Did you feel that this morning? I don't know. Is anybody else crying? I mean, I'm not a crier. I was like, get back in there, tear. No. But I actually had to walk over and grab a Kleenex here to tell why I'm like, no, I'm wiping my nose. A little higher. But we want that. We want to be able to bless this place through our budget as well. The 30% we want to go toward the operations of this place. We have to pay for lights. We have to pay for gas. We have to pay for toilet supplies. We have to pay for our mortgage and rent. 30% is what we have allocated for all of that. That's our goal. However, 28% of our budget right now goes toward our mortgage interest alone. Is that okay? Is that okay with you? Because it's not okay with me. That is hindering our progress into this city. That is hindering our reach in ministries. That is hindering us sending the youth out and doing cool events. Could you imagine if we didn't have that mortgage interest payment at all? We could be helping other churches pay off their debt. We could be helping equip this place. Wouldn't it be cool to have another Christian-sponsored concert in the Waikato, where hundreds and thousands of people are coming to this place to hear God's worship being sung? We can't do that until we get rid of this stuff. That's why money is so important. That's why Jesus talks about money almost more than anything. Because it's a huge driving factor in our church. It's a huge driving factor in our lives. It's huge. But why do we avoid it? Because like many of us avoided this week, we don't want to get slapped in the face. Right? But there's more to that. Deuteronomy 14 says this: the purpose of tithing is to teach you always to put God first. That's the whole purpose behind all giving, is to put God first, to say, man, my money comes in, and God, I want you to have this, bam, 10% first. I'll learn how to live off the 90%. In fact, there was an interview with a lot of the world's wealthiest people, millionaires, billionaires, and they said, how did you earn your wealth? What was your mindset that whole time when you were building your wealth into this situation, that the place where you're at now? You know what they said? The most common answer was this. Not all of them are Christians, by the way. They said, you know what? My money comes in, I first give, secondly, I save, and then I live off of the rest. And it's the 10-10-80 rule. Most of them they give 10%, even though they're not Christians, because giving is inherent in us. We love giving. It feels good. It's great. 10%, bam, they send it out, Christian or not. And then they save 10%, and they live off of 80. When we inspect our budgets, are we doing the same thing? Or is it every dollar comes in, every dollar that goes out? Is that the way it works with us? Because oftentimes, that's the chain that we get into. So, do you give to the church first, or do you give to missions and ministries first? Honestly, it can be argued either way scripturally. God says, bring the first fruits to me. I personally believe that we're supposed to bring it into the storehouse and bless this place so we can reach out the many fingers that we have in this place. That's my opinion. I believe it's biblically correct as a storehouse. However, I also think it's so equally important to bless missions like OMS, to be able to send missionaries out, and to be able to plant these people in these hurting villages and places throughout the world. It's equally important to do that because at the end of the day, the purpose is to put God first. It's not about us. It's about putting God first in everything. So what about the third question? Is saving biblical? Is saving money then biblical? You tell us to go give. Is saving money biblical or is it selfish? Is it hoarding up funds for myself? Is that okay? Biblically speaking, is saving money okay? Saving money for a rainy day? Or should we be using that money to further the kingdom? What do you think? That's an interesting question. Proverbs 21 says this: the wise man saves for the future, but the foolish man spends whatever he gets. Ouch. Ouch. When we look at our finances, are we looking more like the wise man, or are we looking more like the fool? Because, man, Sarah and I went through a period where we were pretty foolish. We had a lot of cool things. I had my $900 DVD player. Had to have it. Had my awesome watch. Had my cool fancy car with the Tiptronic. Had to have it. That wasn't very wise, though. According to Scripture, I was being a fool. The wise man saves for the future. In fact, there's a study that says young adults these days, between the ages of 20 to 26 or 27-ish, those young adults that finally get their first jobs, that finally get working, they spend the first 5 to 7 years of their working adult life trying to attain the same level of living that their parents are at. So they spend their money buying a car that's equal or equivalent or better than their parents, getting into a house that's equal to or better than their parents, although it took their parents 30 or 40 years to get there. Our young adults are learning, how do we get to our parents' level quicker, faster? And they're borrowing. They're in huge amounts of debt. Huge amounts of debt. Student debt, car loan debt, house debt. And they're just choosing slavery, chains around our legs, rather than taking the time to save money. Because our world teaches us that, man, you got to have it now. Actually, you should have probably had it yesterday, because what I'm giving you today is out of date, and tomorrow's is going to be right now, so you should have probably gotten it yesterday. Loser, But biblically, it says, you know what? It's much better to take your time and save. In fact, my youngest, Andrew, little guy, he's 8. And we got here 2.5 years ago. And he saved up his money. He hasn't had an Xbox or anything for 2.5 years. For a kid like that, that's hell, right? So he's saved. And we took him out this week because he saved enough money to buy himself an Xbox. Was it new? No, he got a used Xbox for a quarter of the price because he had the money to save up and get that. You should have seen the smile on his face when he got that. And then he goes, MJ, come and play with me. Because that's his. Nobody can take that away from him. He worked hard for that. That is what we're called to do. Instant gratification isn't okay, just like impulsive giving isn't okay. Impulsive giving isn't biblical. If we preach a message and you're so inspired and you go, man, how much do I have in here? $5, really? Where did all that go? Woo, okay then, saving. If at the end of the message you're like, I got to give. I have to right now. That's actually not biblical. God says, scriptures say, give what you have purposed in your heart beforehand to give. You've decided in your heart before you've gotten there to give. You've prayed about it. You've stewed over it. You've looked at your finances, and then you give. That's biblical. That's why these televangelist things are crazy. They play on emotions. You should be praying about this. You should be inspecting your budget and seeing, what do I have to give? First of all, saving. Is it biblical? Yeah, it is. Final question. Do I really need to be content in my financial situation? Bible talks a lot about contentment. You should be content whatever you're doing. You should be content in the way that you look. You should be content in how much money you're making. You should be content and content and content and content. Should we really be content in our financial situation? Should we? I love what Paul says in Philippians. He says this, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Did you realize contentment is a process? Contentment is something that we have to go through, and Paul is saving us the trouble. He's saying, hey guys, look, I've learned what it is to be content. It's this process, this journey that I've taken, and I've been, all right, I'm not content, slap, I'm not content, slap, I'm not content, slap, I'm not content. Oh, okay, here it is. And he's saying, hey, Chris, here's the answer. Here it is, and he gives this amazing answer. He says, I have learned to be content in all situations because Jesus Christ is my strength. That's nice and all, but how do you do that? What's up with that? We could say that all day long. Jesus Christ is my strength, but how do you apply that into our life? Because it's true. It is. We get strength through him, but how do you apply that into our lives? And it comes down to Paul's perspective on things, this perspective on life. He embraced the fact that this is not mine. In fact, this is his, so I can have strength from that. He says, can I save? Yes, but I'd rather give because the perspective is, man, this is much cooler. This is much more joy in this. And there's a story about optimist child and a pessimist child. Some of you may have heard this. So they take these two kids, and one pessimist, one optimist, they put them each in an individual room full of manure. The counselor comes in, here you go, stay in here, and he leaves, steps back, comes back about an hour or so later. Pessimist kid, he says, looks in the room, and the kid's crying, sitting in the corner, crying. Understandably, I wouldn't want to be in a room like that either, right? He says, what's the matter? Why are you crying? The kid looks at him, just tears in his eyes. There's nothing good in this place. It stinks. It's awful. It's horrible. He leaves the room and he goes into this optimist kid's place and he looks in the room and the kid's like jumping with joy, just picking up the manure, flinging it in the air, smiling, happy as can be. He's like, what's going on in here? What? And the kid looks at him, he's like, well, with this much manure, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. There's perspective. We can either be the guy that's going, my finances stink, I can't help, or we can go, my finances stink, but I can still help. I can do something. There's a farmer, walks out of his house, optimist. Man, it's a beautiful day out. Sun is shining. It's going to be a great day. His neighbor, pessimist farmer, walks out and he goes, man, it's going to be a hot day. I hope it doesn't wither my crops. I hope it doesn't burn my crops up. Next day, the optimist farmer walks out and he's like, it's raining. Oh, yes, I don't have to spend any money on watering my crops. Pessimist farmer walks out and he goes, oh, it's raining. It's going to flood my crops. So they get together one day and the optimist farmer says, hey, listen, I got this new bird dog. You want to go hunting? Got this, it's great. I can show you what he does and stuff. And so they agree, okay, this weekend, let's go hunting. Let's go shoot some birds. So they go out. They go out hunting on the weekend. It's like, okay, no. It's like, shoot some birds and the birds fall down. And, they're hunting ducks and these things land in the lake. And the optimist farmer goes, all right, come on, go get them. Go get the birds. And he goes, all right, check this out. Watch what my dog can do. The dog goes out, gets these ducks. But not only that, the dog actually walks on top of the water like Jesus. Gets these ducks. runs back to the owner, drops it off. And the optimist guy goes, did you see that? Did you see that? My dog can do. And the pessimist guy is standing there, he's like, your dog can't swim, can he? At the end of the day, it's how do we look at our situation? How do we choose to live? It's a decision. It's a process on how we get from point A to point B in contentment. Because at the end of the day, it's what we do, not what we intend to do, that defines our lives, that defines our reputations, and that defines our legacies. Intentions are great. I can intend all day long. In fact, right now, I'm intending to talk to you while miming. I am. In my mind, I'm talking to you right now, and I'm miming. I'm in a box. Did you know that? Can you see? I'm miming. I am. Come on. But until I actually stand and sit in a box and put it into action, I'm stuck. Somebody help me, please. Please, please. It's only a thought. It's only an intention. An intention is a thought. It's billions and billions of electrochemical reactions happening in the synapses of my brain. But that's all it is. Who cares about that? Until I take that out of here and say, bam, I'm going to stand here. No, I'm going to stand here. I'm going to start breakdancing. An intention is intention until we start doing something. We want to be the church that does something in this city. We want to be the church that pays off the mortgage and helps the next church pay off their mortgage and helps the next church pay off their mortgage. We want to be the church that is able to afford sending scholarship kids for single parents onto Christian camps. We want to be the church that gets out and does. We can intend all day long. Is that okay with you? Because I have a lot of good intentions. And I have a lot of regrets. Do today what you'll regret not doing tomorrow. If my kid asks me tonight, when I tuck him into bed for an extra hug, I'm going to give him that hug. Because if I don't, tomorrow I'll regret that. At the end of the day, we want to be a church that does. Did you know that the Hamilton Homeless Trust serves the homeless food every single night of the week? Authentic Church has decided to close their doors. And that's where they're serving out of. So they've been praying, how do we get another month? How do we get another week to serve these homeless people meals? And so you know what they did? They went and approached churches. Church after church after church they called. And you know what? The churches said, we can't help you. We don't have room enough in our budgets to help you. $1,000 would serve these guys for another month, every single night of the month. If they called us, can we help them? Can we? That's not okay with me. We want to be the church that does, that goes out and helps them. That people come into us and we go, yes, I want to be a yes church. How about you? I want to look at my finances and get slapped in the face and say, okay, God, I'll stop the Starbucks this week. Okay, I'll look at the budget stuff, find room somewhere else. The kids don't need to eat this week. It's all good. It's okay. But when we finally take the stand and we finally get down and we get that hacksaw and we just start hacking away at that chain and we decide that this link has got to go. This bracelet has got to go. When we finally make that decision, then we become a do church. Our vision, to be a church that the unchurched love to attend. Unfortunately, we are human. We look at the exterior of things. Did you notice out there all those holes in our wall? the plastered holes and the big hole that luckily got fixed thanks to Jesse over this past 2 weeks behind this door. We want to be a church where people come in and it looks great. Like Ann says, a 5 senses church. People are visually stimulated. They walk in and they can maybe smell the coffee in the church, and they're welcomed, and it creates an environment where people are welcomed. And a couple of years ago, Gemma designed an amazing thing for our lobby area. And so some people like to give to something. This is the project that we're working on. We want to paint out there and make it look nice. Why? Because those that are unchurched need a place to feel welcome, need a place to feel comfortable. We want to build a wood wall along the side of the stairway. Why? Because we are here to get the unchurched excited about coming here. But are you okay with that? Because you know who the unchurched are, right? They're sinners. They're not like us. Holy people, right? They're sinners. Are they welcome to sit next to you? Let me ask you this. If a prostitute came in this morning from a night's work, seeking help, seeking God, seeking hope, and sat next to you, would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with that? In your heart of hearts, would you be okay with giving her hope and allowing her to sit next to you smelling like that? Could you give her hope? I want to be a church that does. I don't want to intend. I don't want to intend. So the big ask from us at Elim, can you get behind us on this? Can you get behind us prayerfully, financially, time supportively, and become a church that does amazing things? Because it begins with us. It begins with you. It has to. I'm tired of it. Can you break the chain? Sit down, look at your budgets. Sit down, look at your time. Sit down, look at your talents, your gifts. And can you say, here's how I can help. I'm good at saying hi and smiling. I'll stand at the door and invite people in. You know what? I'm great at financial stuff. I'll help out with however I can financially. Can you do that? That's what we're asking you. Can you get behind the true vision of this place? We don't want to be like every other church that's intending a lot of great things. Because at the end of the day, it's what we do, not what we intend to do, that's going to define Hamilton Elim Church. Can we do it together? Let's do it together.